Hello. Today I thought I'd do an RTA tier list of sorts and maybe just give my opinions on the meta and certain characters within that meta, and basically give me a free chance to complain about the meta and some of those characters. As you can see here, I've got S+, S, A, B, C, and autocover in its own tier, and I'll cover why I did that a bit later. I probably could have done this, like revealing one tier at a time or adding the units in one at a time, but I'm probably going to be bouncing back and forth between the tiers as I discuss my thoughts on the meta overall, so I thought I'd just put it all on the screen at the same time. Basically, S+, this is like the absolute best units in the tier, in RTA, the units that you basically need to build a team to prepare for, or if you're lucky enough, basically you want most of these units in your team. S is like just a step below that. These units are also really amazing, but they tend to have like one flaw that makes them not so perfect that these units don't have. Tier below that, these are strong units, but they have more pronounced problems, or their power level, they've just been power crept too much and so they got forced down more. B tier is basically like a solid niche, like what they do is pretty good, but overall it's just not as useful as what the units above it do. And C tier is kind of like, you could use these units, like you wouldn't necessarily be throwing by putting these units on your team, and like you could use them for fun and still not tank your win rate, but generally speaking everything they can do is outclassed by a unit in the tiers above. And then autocover is its own separate tier, because autocover is such I think it's such an essential part of RTA if you want to be able to survive versus blitz, that I find it difficult to rank them compared to offensive units. Like if you were like starting a fresh account and you had no autocover and you fought a team that had PMS, Ladger, Summer Sorrow, and I don't know, Deep Ran running down at your team, and you were slower than all of them, like I don't see how you would win that generally, because you can't protect against all that damage. Autocover is so necessary for your other units to survive the onslaught of blitz that I think it's just too important. And I've ordered them within this tier basically in what I think is their best value compared to their weight, basically. So I guess I'll start at S+. First of all, we got Hero V, or Hero 5, whatever you want to call him, Monster Wrangler. He's amazing. This isn't the rest of these tiers aren't necessarily ordered in terms of how good they are, though you could argue that V is the best unit in the game because he's so versatile. First of all, he's a breath unit. Breath is the best attack type in the game. It's got the least amount of reflex and resistances going around. He's got a way to ignore damage resistance. So many things in the game have damage resistance now. Obviously, Solar does, Ladger does. Rex has a one-time damage nullify barrier. He has 20% damage reduction. Other Vs have damage reduction. Deep Ran has 30% damage reduction. It's amazing to be able to ignore all that. He can also ignore the immortals of Summer Sorrow and Antu. So overall, just that one move already, it's similar to when Solo came out, how Zenithian Slash is just useful versus so much of the meta. Zenithian Zephyr is amazing versus so much of the meta. He also has his AoE Sizz Breath. There's a lot of Sizz weakness up in these higher tiers. He has a 4-inch sleep. He has the ability to give damage reduction to all his teammates that don't already have better damage reduction, basically. He has the ability to summon units, particularly, I'll get into a bit more, he has the ability to summon a cover tank, which is just an absolutely insane power, it's insanely powerful to be able to do that. So yeah, this guy, he's just amazing. He has status cures on odd turns, he gets his agility up, he just does everything. He's a Swiss Army knife, and every knife on there or every tool on there is just amazing. He can just do everything basically. Then we have a Stark, recently blossomed. Despite having a bang weakness in a meta that's so filled with PMS, they gave him the tools to be able to survive all that. He gets his attack boost every time he's hit. He's got a heal under 50%. He's got a full heal under 20% plus a 50% damage barrier. He's got immortal, and he's got a massive new Zam attack that can hit so many tiles, which is part of the reason why a lot of these units down here were pushed down quite a bit. You've got SPH with a Zam weakness, you've got Erdrick with a Zam weakness, you've got Die 2 with a Zam weakness, and since the range on his Stark is so massive, it's kind of difficult to hide Zam weak units away now. from anything. The only Zam weak units I have up here are Valeria, some of Psaro, Rex, and MJ. Obviously, they all have ways to mitigate that damage somewhat. She has a 100% evasion, he has evasion and immortal, and sometimes 50% barrier. Rex has a damage nullified barrier, and Valeria has a triple barrier. And these guys are really tanky too. It's not like they die to it, but what they offer on the offensive end isn't quite as valuable as what some of these other units offer. So yeah, he's really strong, even despite the fact that a lot of the meta is actually Zam resistant. V is Zam resistant, PMS is Zam resistant, and 2 is Zam resistant, Deeperan is Zam resistant. So it's not, a lot of the time he may not have a great target for Hellstorm, and obviously before you activate his heal he only has 3 move, so he may not be able to hit something well with Imperial Strike. But because he is so because he's like able to survive so well, because he also has that odd turn cleanse, because if you do knock him into that heal range, he gets that +2 move, and his Imperial Strike is really strong. He's a real headache to take down without powering up to such a level that he becomes scary. And V is also, again, his Effort Breath can help with that, since it will kill him through his Immortal. But if you can't set up the kill right with V, or if you're not running V, which may be the case, then he's a real headache to take down. And the fact that Hellstorm can lower defense 60% rate means that he can either soften up units for his following attacks on other turns, or he can soften them up for teammates in such a physical dominated meta. So yeah, he's really good, really difficult to kill. It's in a massive AoE, and also yeah, that's another thing. He basically destroys all cover tanks, apart from Winter Ashlyn, who doesn't really exist. Basically, no cover tank, if they're covering 2 units, can survive his Hellstorm, because it's that strong. So yeah, he's really good. We recently had some Psaro release, which is one of the units I'm going to be complaining about in this video. He's amazing. I'm going to go to his kit for this part of the video actually. He's super fast, a lot of HP, a lot of attack, 3 move. This move right here, his Crack Dash, which gives him a 50% damage barrier every single time he uses it. And when you combine his speed, the fact that he has double Immortal, the fact that oh man, I don't even know where to start. I feel like there's so many parts of Summersaur's kit that are so good. Like when you combine them all together, it's ridiculous. Like I'll try and go through them individually, but basically this guy, he can create 50% damage barriers, okay? And he comes at base with double Immortal. So that means that first of all you need to hit him to get him, low enough to start proccing Immortals, but to do that you need to break through the barrier first of all. And then after that you need to get him to 0. And then after that you need to hit him 2 more times after that. And not only that, Awakening 1, he gets agility, evasion, attack, and defense. So now he's getting evasion stacks. So that means if you want to break through the barrier with a multi-hit that's physical, well, or any physical, if you want to hit him with any physical attack, now it's unreliable. Now maybe you won't even get to break the barrier because you'll miss. Maybe if you go for a multi-hit attack, you won't hit enough times to knock him down to his Immortal. Maybe when he's at his Immortal, you'll miss your physical or martial attack, and you won't be able to kill him through. You won't be able to knock him out through Immortal. And then Awakening 3, he gets Wrath. So that means if you do knock him to his Immortal, and then you end up missing because of his evasion, well, now he's Wrath, and his Wrath. They looked at Andalusia 2, and they thought, you know what, her Awakening 3 perk isn't good enough. So they added to this. They said now it also cures his status when he's under 20%. So he gets the superpower, and it cures his status. And his status weaknesses, by the way, he doesn't even have one. There is not a real status weakness here. Being weak to Spell Lock, that's not a weakness. That's not a real weakness. Nobody runs Spell Lock unless they're running Stump Jump. And Curse, that doesn't exist anywhere. And not only does he not have a real status weakness, he actually has 100% immunity to Confusion, one of the best statuses, and 50% resistance to Sleep, the other best status. So his only real weaknesses, well, they're not weaknesses. The only things you can do to him are stun him, paralyze him, or charm him, but none of that is guaranteed. You have no guaranteed way to shut this guy down, basically. And let's say you do land a status on him, you then can't knock him below 20% unless you're certain that you have a way to wipe him out, because he'll cure it if you do. And if you can't status him, so let's say he's gone for his crack dash, he's behind you, he's put up a 50% damage barrier. If you don't kill him or status him, at the start of his action, he has a preemptive attack that hits in a large... Any unit within 3 squares of him is going to get hit by this. That means it's going to soften up anything around him, possibly break the shields of anything around him if they have damage barriers, or soften up cover tanks around him. And then he'll get to either heal himself up with his frizz attack, or he'll get to dash again and possibly reactivate his barrier. And then Awakening 5, you might be thinking, okay, he's got double immortal, you know, V is probably the best answer you can have to him, right? True, but then his Awakening 5 perk is greatly raises breath resistance. So it's like, what annoys me is, like, it's like they went out of their way to remove every single possible theoretical counterplay you could have. Like, he has evasion, so you think, okay, I want to rely on spells and breath to get through to him. Okay, but now he's got +2 breath resistance. Now breath is much harder to do. Now if you want to use V to kill him, first of all you have to deal damage through his 50% damage barrier, and then you have to knock him to a point where V can actually kill him with his Zephyr Breath, which is now, you know, not even going to break 100k damage because he has 100k. He's not even going to break 1k damage because he has the great breath resistance. And you can't rely on physical or martial hits because he gets evasion stacks every turn, and he is already so fast naturally, and he gets agility stacks every turn. So your odds of hitting him with physical or martial attacks after his first turn goes is usually about 70% at best. And so if you want to use multi-hits to break the barrier or kill him through his multi-immortals without using V-Breath, then all those hits become unreliable. And if you can't do that, you don't have the damage to do it, you know, you don't have a way to break the barrier, knock him to, you know, under 50% and then kill with V-Breath. You also don't have a way to status him to protect yourself from his preemptive attack. You don't have a way to reliably status him just so you can take a breather, focus on his other teammates and then deal with him after. There's no way to do that. You either need to kill him by focusing like almost all your effort on him, or you don't do that. He gets his preemptive attack, he gets to dash again, he gets another 50% damage barrier up, or he heals up with Rising Sun. And so it's just like, you have to commit so many actions to this guy, and he's got so much of his kit is like makes so many potential answers unreliable or difficult that it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous to me. And on top of that, he also has a way to increase his own tension and enter Crack Force and Frizz Force. And so even if you want to play defensive with him, then that's possible, and you will get rewarded for that. You can give yourself 100% tension, so he's not even he's not just a blitz unit that's forced to commit, you know. And if he doesn't commit, then he'll lose his buffs because he gets stronger every turn. His evasion stacks up every turn. If you don't rush in, like if someone plays defensive with this guy and you don't rush in, well then you're going to be dealing with 100% tension, 60% evasion, +3 attack, +3 agility, Summer Sorrow. And I mean, I doubt there's anything in the game that's living 100% tension boost like from one of these attacks. So I don't like it at all. Obviously people know that I like Valeria a lot. And this guy, basically I view him as like her but just tuned up to 100, because like Valeria, she has no status protection, she's weak to sleep, and she's crack locked basically, but she's still really strong, she's still a really good unit despite all that. But there's actual counterplay options in there. Bring crack resistant units, put her to sleep, you know, or just kill her. She doesn't have double immortal or anything like that either. Like there's counterplay options available to you. But when it comes to units like this, breath is much more difficult to use. Physical and martial skills due to the evasion are unreliable. He has double immortal. He has no way to status him, reliable way to status him, and he has a way to cleanse status if he's not below 20%. So, and obviously teams aren't just, you know, this Samsara isn't the only unit on his team. You've got so many other units with him that are also extremely powerful, that are also difficult or impossible to status, or difficult or almost impossible to kill in a single turn or a single action. And so when you've got units like Samsara paired with a unit like Ladja, with a unit like Rex, with a unit like a Stark, who are so difficult to kill, it becomes like, well, how can I deal with all these units at once? Like that's basically what it can feel like. And so the direction they've been going recently, I'm not a fan of it. The power creep is a bit stupid. Like if you're not spending to keep up, then it's very difficult to compete in real-time arena these days. And so yeah, I'm not a fan of Psaro. Like, he's an amazing unit, and I think he's too good. I think you could just take away. He didn't need to have no status weakness. That's what I'll say. Like, he could have kept his paralysis weakness, or they could have taken away his evasion stacking. He didn't need to keep that if he was getting agility boosts and gained double immortal. Like, they just add everything onto the kit when they could have taken one thing just to add some reliability. With no evasion, units like a Stark with Hellstorm, like, that's a much more reliable way to deal a huge chunk of damage. Or Zenith Slash from solo. But now with the evasion, well, now it's a tosser. Now I have a 30% chance of missing. If I do miss, then I'm basically guaranteed lost the game. Or he didn't need to have the great really raises breath resistance, and then V becomes a much more viable option for killing him with Zephyr Breath, and without having to lower his HP nearly as much. So yeah, not a fan of Psaro, or not a fan of the lack of counterplay that exists to him, basically. Alright, that's my Psaro rant over for now. Let's move on to PMS. PMS, I mean, he's one of the few units that's actually stood the test of time. I put that in quotation marks because, I mean, it wasn't that long ago he got blossomed. But if you look at the S plus and S ranks here, most of them were released within the last 3 months. Basically only PMS, I think, and Solo and Zenlon are older than that, from what I can tell. Everything else here either got blossomed recently or was released recently. But PMS, he's still here because he's amazing. I don't really need to go into what he does, but basically he's difficult to status, he's difficult to kill because of the heal, and his bang pool is, I mean, it's still probably the best blitz enabling move in the game. And it's what makes needing an auto cover if you're not blitzing generally so important. In most circumstances, because since he's pulling a unit into range, even if that unit that got pulled, heavy resist bang, now he's been pulled forward 2 squares, every single teammate of PMS is now within range to hit him, and I'm not sure there's a unit in the game that can survive 4 hits from a blitz comp using, a combination of these units up here. So really he can be used to, pick off and snipe anything he wants, but if you look at the units around him, bang resistance isn't very common at the top of the meta right now. V is bang weak, Stark is bang weak, Psaro is bang neutral, he himself is bang neutral, Rex is bang neutral, Ladja is bang weak, and 2 is bang weak, Solo is bang neutral, Deeperan is bang weak, and so bang is actually an amazing element right now. So he's doing great damage to some of the best units in the game, and he's pulling them forward into the range of his teammates. So he's still amazing. He's still usually the central piece of a blitz team. Although with Ladja's release, who I'll get to in a bit, sometimes you can run Ladja over PMS, but generally speaking, PMS is still an amazing unit, and I don't see him going away anytime soon, basically. Then we have Rex, very new addition, again, an absolutely amazing blitz unit. He's the fastest unit in the game, I think, with his +2 agility at battle start. I don't think a Rex has really ever done anything else. If you've ever fought him, he'll dive into your team. He is also an amazing unit for wiping out auto cover or really weakening it, because it's typeless, so resistances don't matter and it does a lot of damage. Every time he hits a unit, he possibly gives himself a tension stack. He has that damage nullify barrier at battle start, and he has a double status cure. So actually killing Rex is a puzzle within itself. You need to have something break the barrier, and then you need to be able to kill him after the barrier is broken, because like I say, you can't status him. If you try to status him, you're going to give him another 2 tension stacks, and if you can't kill him, turn 2, he has arguably, I'd say, the best move in the game in Zenithian Gazap, which is going to wipe the buffs off every single one of your units, unless you manage to hide behind a cover tank or something, though it's unlikely that you'll have a cover tank alive. And so he's an amazing unit, and he's a real headache. And like I said, he's one of the units that, like, if you combine him with some Psaro, you've got 2 units that feel like you need to dedicate so many actions towards to kill him. You can break through his barrier and deal damage to him with Ladja's Killer Frizz or V's Zephyr Breath. But V's Zephyr Breath, if you're getting blitzed by some Psaro and Rex and a Stark, well, I guess usually you can't run 365 weights, but or deeper and stuff, like you want the Zephyr Breath to be able to kill some of Psaro through his Immortal, so he doesn't get another action on turn 2, he doesn't get his preemptive strike and stuff. But then you also want to Zephyr Breath through Rex's shield to deal damage and wipe out the barrier to set up for something else to kill him. But your actions obviously are spread thin. And even after Rex's damage barrier has been broken, his base HP is high, and he has 2 stacks of defense to start with. So he's pretty tanky. Like he'll survive an Astark Hellstorm, generally speaking, unless the Astark is like attack built. So it's really not simple to deal with Rex, due to the fact that he has no E3 status and he has the damage barrier. And if you don't deal with him, then his Zenithian Gazap on turn 2 is not only does it deal a ton of damage that anything doesn't resist zap, but it also has that Frigid Wave effect, which can, if it lands on your units and wipes their buffs out, then that may as well be game over, even if it doesn't actually kill them. So yeah, Rex, another Blitz unit, another amazing unit, and generally speaking, you'll see as you go on, like Blitz units very recently got absolutely buffed to it. It got buffed to another level of Blitz. Like it used to be fairly equal. I'd say like the amount of auto cover you'd see, the amount of Blitz you'd see. I guess it was slowly creeping up Blitz. And it used to be the case that Japan's meta was a lot more Blitz heavy than ours was. And since the release of these recent units, since Rex and Ladra, who I'll get into, it seems to have basically flipped now, and we've gone to another level where basically everyone is blitzing. And auto cover is a very rare thing to find, at least in Legend, like the top levels of Legend. So yeah, Rex, another amazing unit. Nothing bad to say, he doesn't really have a weak point really. And then we have Ladra. This is another unit I want to rant about, but I'll probably save that for a bit later in the video. But this is a 50 weight unit with basically the kit of a 65 weight. He's got +2 evasion. He's got bounce. He's got a 30% damage resistance. He's got a heal under 70% that heals in 50%. He's got a martial large fan pool, which not only pulls you 1 square in, that not only does a lot of damage, but it also has a 60% chance to cut your healing. And if we look at the units that are again in these top tiers, basically everything nowadays wants to heal or has a way to heal. You've got V, he heals with the action to start. You've got a Stark, he heals under 50%, under 20%. Psaro can heal with his first attack. PMS heals under 50%. Rex heals at action start at Awakening 5. Ladra heals under 70%. Solo heals when he attacks and usually runs Miracle Sword. And 2 can heal with her Sears and heals when she attacks. Steve Brown also heals a lot. Valeria can heal. Zenlong can heal. Darkonium can heal. Booga can heal. And so, I mean, cutting any of that in half can be the difference maker in whether you can kill something or not, or whether you can survive something or not. So it's a really potent perk to have on a move that is already so useful. Having a large fan pool basically means that you can reach almost like the whole map. Like there's not really many places you can actually hide from Ladra's pool. And again, like with PMS, if you don't have an auto cover and you get pulled forward, well, now you're in range of all his teammates, all his deadly, like who are really strong. I've gotten over some of the units he's commonly paired with already, and so I think it was perfectly strong enough already. Like it didn't need to have a heal cut effect to make it useful. It didn't even need to be, even if the attack wasn't that strong, just the fact that it was pulling you forwards would be, to enable your teammates, it would be incredibly useful. But it is strong. It's strong enough to wipe out Rose Garden in 1 attack generally. It's strong enough to deal a ton of damage to Forest Dragon and Mechana, when we generally do about 75 to 80% of their health. So if anything has touched them before that, then they're basically guaranteed to be dead. And it can also, if you don't have a unit in front of these of Mechana Worm or Forest Dragon, then it will pull the cover tanks out of position. So you also need to position to make sure that doesn't happen. So he's another amazing blitz enabler, but except he's 50 weight, but he still has some of the perks, that basically his perks are actually better in some ways than PMS's is. His damage reduction is 30% compared to the 20% of PMS's, and his damage reduction can actually stack with the damage reduction that V gives, and also his heal, since his heal happens under 70%, it's actually much harder to get him to a threshold where you can actually kill him. Because it's much easier to accidentally deal too much damage and then activate his heal. And if you do activate his heal, then he's got 1.5x potency on the Killer Frizz, which already ignores damage resistance, and you've got 1.5x potency on the Scythe. So that gives him an option to, you know, potentially nuke something with the frizz, or deal really good AoE damage with the martial pool. And then on top of that, if you actually want to kill him again, we come to this, what I was talking about with Psaro. If you want to talk about reliable options for dealing with him, well, again, he's a unit that doesn't really have a real status weakness. He's weak to stun, but since he has +2 evasion, since he has spell reflect, the amount of stun, I mean, stun is really a lacking option in the game. There's not many units that actually have stun. The ones that you could think of, like, that you might actually use are Dango, and his stun is martial. So that means there's at least a 40% chance to miss that. We've recently had Madgen release, and she's got, you know, a 5-hit bang hit that has stun chances, but he's got spell reflect, so that doesn't happen either. And so basically you're not going to be able to disable him turn 1 unless you get, you know, lucky, land a sweet breath or something. This guy thankfully doesn't actually resist sleep, but again, you might be banking your whole game on landing a 60% sleep move as your way to, you know, disable him, because if you can't disable him, then you need to kill him, but killing him is difficult. He has the 30% damage resistance. You need to deal, you know, like 29%. Obviously the ideal scenario is you deal 29% and then you kill him by dealing the 71% before the heal. But if you do accidentally activate the heal, then you've burned 1 attack. Then you need to hit him again, and then you need to hit him a 3rd time to actually kill him, because he's too bulky to die to mostly everything in the game. There are like 2 units that can one-shot him, which I'll go over later. But so again, he's a unit that you need to have your turn order right if you're going to kill him right, and that turn order that you need to kill him may not, and if it involves V, it may not match the turn order you need to kill Rex. It may not match the turn order that you need to kill Psaro. But again, V, what makes V so useful, he does have the ability to ignore that 30% damage resistance, and so Zephyr Breath can be, you know, the tool you need to kill him without activating the heal. But yeah, this Elijah's just, like I say, his offensive prowess is amazing at enabling his teammates, and his damage is good, and then actually killing him or like statusing him, both very difficult to do, and it can go wrong very easily. And if you do accidentally activate his buffs, then it's likely that something in your team might die. Solo, he's still great. He's one of the best units you can have if you're trying to combat a blitz team, because his Zenithian Slash can wipe out the battle start buffs from something like PMS, Rex, or Ladja, assuming that you can actually hit them. He does have short hit Giga Sword, which is obviously really nice for hitting faster units than him, or hitting, you know, Psaro. And generally he's one of the tankiest units in the game. His damage reduction also can stack with V's damage reduction, so he becomes, you know, really, really tanky. And he has obviously the triple status cure, which I think is still probably the best anti-status ability in the game. I don't think anything has actually surpassed that so far. But yeah, Zenith Slash and having so much bulk basically keeps Solo relevant. You know, he's one of the most reliable things to have. Like, if you want something that's like not going to die to a blitz team, Solo is one of the most reliable things you can have for that. And he, obviously the utility of Zen Slash is super useful after that, after he survives. And he has agility up and all that stuff. He's still amazing. And 2, Triple Immortal, I don't really need to go into why and 2 would still be good. But she is still good. Triple Immortal is amazing, again, for surviving blitz, and just generally it's an extremely useful thing. It's slightly worse now that we've got V. That is obviously a great option for ignoring Immortals, but you know, it's not so simple that V completely invalidates her. As long as somebody is playing smart with their Lucia, like they're not going to run Lucia into V's range unless they have a good reason to. And also, you still need to have it set up so that she takes, you know, she's knocked into a range where V can actually kill her before V is able to kill her. And again, if you're pairing her with other units that you'd really want V Zephyr Breath for, like Psaro, like Rex, like Ladja maybe, then, you know, V can only Zephyr Breath 1 unit at a time. You know, he can't do it to all of them. So you can really, if you combine her with other units that have Immortal, or other units that have damage barriers and things, you can really spread V thin. You know, you can give him 4 potential targets with Zephyr Breath, and he has to really pick his poison about who he's gonna let live and let his teammates try and deal with. And so she's just another layer on top of that. And that's it for S+. Next we're on to S. I'll probably go into less detail on each of the units as we go further down, because I don't want this video to go on too long. We've got Deebaran at the start. Deebaran, still an amazing unit. I'd say, as I said, like S units usually have a flaw that I'd say that S plus units don't have, and basically Dbrand's only flaw is that he's confusion weak. There is a way to just disable Dbrand and ignore him, which isn't really an option for any of the units above, like up here. Like Ladger, you don't really have a way to just disable him and ignore him guaranteed. Whereas Dbrand's confusion weakness, that does allow you to do that. Obviously his damage is still amazing, his bulk is still amazing, still a fantastic unit for 50 weight. But the fact that that option exists, that you can confuse him and focus on his teammates, whereas you can't do that with basically all the other units up here, that's what holds him back from being S plus in my opinion. But yeah, Dora amazing, and his bulk is amazing, so he's still great. Pop, not seen too much of him lately, just because Blitz has been so prominent, so powerful, and also two of the best Blitz units, Psaro and Ladger, they have Spell Reflect, which limits his options. But I think Pop is, I've not really talked about it before, but I think Pop is the best like turtle unit in the game due to Midroa and his odd turn buffs. He gets move up, evasion up, and wisdom up on odd turns, and that basically means if a match is going to stall out, and one person has Pop and the other person doesn't have Pop, the person that has Pop is majorly favored, because come turn 5, you know, if both teams are not engaging with each other, well, Pop's going to have +3 move, +3 whiz, +3 evasion, and Midroa. That means he can basically run anywhere on the map and choose to kill any unit in the game, because his Midroa is going to ignore damage reduction, his Midroa is going to ignore any immortals you might have. And with the +3 evasion, maybe you're not even going to have a reliable way to answer back to what he just did to you. So I think Pop, despite you know, maybe he's the current meta, he doesn't thrive in it as much as he could. I think his potential is still great. I think if you hide him behind a cover tank, and he gets his 1.5x boost from an ally getting status, you know, his spells, they still hit super hard. Like he has good elements. He has Frizz, Sizz, and Bang. Frizz can hit V. Obviously, Bang is an amazing. I went over with PMS. Bang is amazing AOE to have. So he's still like huge damage potential, and in stallier games, he's still one of the best units. And the fact that V can summon a cover tank means that it's easier now to protect him than ever before. Even if if you're running V with a cover tank, that cover tank gets wiped, where you can now summon another one with V and maybe protect Pop until he gets his action on turn 2 to actually withdraw things. So he's been enabled even better by V, I would say, and he gets damage reduction, obviously. Next up we have Jade. Personally, I would possibly argue for Jade actually being a tier above this. I think she isn't very popular from my experience, which I'm grateful for, but she is a unit that can basically single-handedly win games with her turn 1 action. If she's facing another Blitz and she runs up and she lands an 80% charm on Summer Psaro, that could be the game swung right there. If she lands an 80% charm on Ladger, that could be the game won for her right there. That could enable her Blitz team to basically run in and do whatever they want and not need to worry about what these units are doing. And also she has the AoE sleep. If she lands sleep on enough units, if she puts PMS to sleep, if she hits Ladger and puts Ladger to sleep, that's it. The game is over. And there's not really many other units that can just win a game, you know, off like with their first action like that, like she can. And if she does charm the right units, let's say you're facing another Blitz, and she does charm Summer Psaro, and the other units are, or she does charm Ladger, and the other units are like Psaro, a Stark, and Dbrand. Well then, now a Stark and Psaro, they don't want to hit her because she has Charm Body. That means if they do choose to hit her, there's a 40% chance that they're going to get charmed by her Charm Body. And so only Dbrand is the only thing that can hit her. But she's still not even going to take that much damage from that because she has 30% damage resistance innately. But you also don't want to give her a second turn because then she can put you to sleep. So she can throw you into a bunch of really bad situations. I mean, obviously 80% charm isn't 100%, she's not guaranteed to do that. But an 80% charm on basically everything in the game when there isn't that much charm resistance going around, it's just is incredibly powerful, and it can really swing a match just completely right out the gate. So I think she's amazing, and I'm glad she's not used more, is all I will say. And I hope no one sees this and thinks, oh, I'll start using her. But she is amazing, and if she was more popular, I'd probably argue for her being upper tier. Next up we have Valeria, my favourite unit. As I covered in the Summer Psaro rant, she has her flaws. She's sleep weak, she's crack locked, she's not particularly bulky, even despite the 3 barriers. But what she does have is fairly unique, is the ability to wipe out Psaro and Ladger in a single hit, which is extremely useful with how common and popular Blitz is. Like, I can't tell you how much PMS and Ladger teams I've fought over the past month, and being able to wipe them out in a single action is so important, because then it actually frees up your action economy. Now you can actually spend 2 or 3 attacks dealing with Rex. Now you can actually spend 2 or 3 attacks dealing with Summer Sorrow, because you dealt with PMS and Ladger in a single attack. You just wipe them out. And so that's basically where her power is. Valeria's power is basically dependent on, is the meta crack weak, or are key units in the meta crack weak, and if they are, then she's really good, and if they aren't, then she's probably useless. But right now, there's a lot of crack neutral and a lot of crack weakness on key units. Obviously Rex and Samsara, they're crack resistant, but everything else is either crack weak or crack neutral, basically. And so her ability to free up your action economy, it's too useful to put her any lower than S. But she obviously does that. Obviously she has her flaws, and that's why she's not S+. Next up we have Zenlon. Not much to say here. What he does basically hasn't changed, but he's got a slight power boost recently due to V coming out. So now teams will run V leadership with Zenlon, and now you've got 2 supercharged, 2 of the best breath users in the game basically on the same team. He has a typeless multi-hit breath, which can help break through immortals. He has the Frizz Crack Aurora breath, which is obviously amazing neutral or brilliant coverage in the current meta. He's still super tanky. Just a really strong unit overall. Basically, like Zenlon's kit, I don't think he'll ever fall off. Basically, the only reason he falls off is because other 65 units come out that are just, maybe better than him. But his kit will always be amazing, and he is still good. It just maybe not as good as the other S units are right now. Basically, that's the only reason he's down here. He doesn't really have like a major pressing flaw. It's just difficult to justify using him when there are so many other good 65 weights now. Draconium, he's still really good. Obviously, his flaw is basically that V exists. That's basically the only flaw he has. But V exists, and V is very popular, and V can basically ignore all his insanely big damage reduction and make him way softer to take out. Also, with how much evasion and agility is in the meta now, his Draconium Ray is slightly less reliable to actually hit things. He can miss a lot of the time, which means you're missing out on a big chunk of damage. Maybe you needed that damage to be able to let your V finish off one of these units or something, and that isn't the case anymore. But his kit's still amazing. If anything that's not V that's attacking him, he still soaks up that damage really well. He still has the ability to cure his teammates' status ailments and heal them a lot. And he can still, he's one of the best units in the game at like winning like a 1v3 situation. Like if they don't have V, if their units are like Summer Sorrow, and I don't know, Rex or something, like Draconium can clutch that situation. If he just keeps healing every turn, he can clutch that situation and end up winning. MJ's great. Physical dominated meta. She's got 100% evasion. Obviously versus auto, she's even better. Like loads of units are going to waste their time attacking her. Charm, as I said, there's not much charm resistance in the current meta. There's obviously a lot of status cures and resistance, but there's obviously on even turns you can still charm V. You can charm Stark. You could charm Summer Sorrow. You could charm PMS. You could charm Ladger if you hit him. You could potentially charm Antu. You could charm Debran. And so that's just all amazing. And she can bait, like I say, basically every physical attacker in the game and waste all their actions on her. So she's still amazing for a 50 weight. And she has a triple hit to help try and break barriers and kill through immortals. Mam2, again, she's an absolutely amazing blitz unit. Her follow-ups can help ignore a lot of the reactive heals that some of these units have. If a unit is like, if a Stark is knocked below 20% by her punch, then he's not going to heal because of it. Or if you knock him to 0, you can punch him and kill him before he actually gets his heal. So her follow-ups are amazing. Her only real flaw is that she's much easier to kill than a lot of other blitz units. Her damage, she's way more of an actual glass cannon. Like she has an actual flaw of sorts. She obviously has the status cure, so that isn't really an option for dealing with her, but in terms of killing her, she doesn't have any damage resistance. Her HP isn't particularly high, and she has no damage barriers or anything, so you can just kill her if you want to get rid of her. But again, if you don't kill her, she has an amazing turn 2 action. She has Refractor Fist, which is going to be really strong, powered up by her follow-up boosts, and cut the healing of units. And I've already gone over why healing, or how good it is to cut healing, because of how many units that do it. So yeah, she's an amazing blitz unit, and like I say, she's only got better with the release of these other blitz units like Rex and Ladger, because they can all basically proc her follow-ups. Next up we have Booga. I don't see very much of him, but I think he is a very strong unit. Obviously he has 50% damage reduction at battle start, so really he's one of the best units you can have versus Blitz. Like, if there's one unit that's not going to die to Blitz, it's going to be Booga. He has 50% damage resistance. He heals 15% at the start of his action, and he heals 50% when he's knocked under 70%. So, he's got a ton of survivability, which is really useful. On top of that, he has, at Booga's release, it was really the pool that gives cover to your team that was really hyped about him. But, I'd say since the meta has developed, I'd say his breath attacks are actually the best thing about him. He has a multi-hit bang breath. I won't go over how good bang is again, and how good multi-hits are again. But that's really useful, and it has a bind chance, which is basically 68% neutral bind chance on anything that doesn't resist, which is really strong, and it's actually one of the best options to use versus Summer Psaro, because if you do bind Summer Psaro, then he actually can't go for his dash. That means no more 50% damage barriers, and that means that you can safely move out of his preemptive strike range, and he can't do anything about it. So that's really strong. He also has the AoE breath attack that lowers attack. In such a physical dominated meta, lowering things attack is really useful. And like I say, he just has that survivability to fight back versus Blitz. Like, even if auto cover, you can leave him outside of auto cover, or you can, if he gets hit after auto cover's gone, like, this guy's not going down. His main weakness is that he's sleep weak. And if you obviously put him to sleep, then you can ignore him. But that is really his only flaw. His damage is good, the statuses he can put out are good, and his survivability is amazing. And then we come on to the A tier. Vern, great unit, auto revive, spell really strong, short hit martial attack. He just suffers a bit due to the spell reflect from Ladger and PMS, and only having 2 move can kind of limit how he can position himself sometimes. And also, again, he kind of just suffers from the other 65 weights are just really good right now. It's difficult to justify running him over one of the 65 weights that's above him. SBH, again, similar sort of story. It's difficult to justify running him over some of the 65 weights above him, but he is still very strong. And despite Istark's prominence, usually on Blitz teams, Istark isn't the unit that's going first. Usually another, on auto blitz or general blitz, another unit is usually going to activate his 50% damage barrier before Istark goes, and so he's also one of the best units of actually surviving blitz because of the barriers he puts up and all the healing he does. And Sizz and Bang, they're still great elements to have in the current meta. Lots of things are weak to that. So he's still a strong unit, still definitely usable. Like, A tier does not mean you're not usable. It's just, generally speaking, you're going to have an easier or better time using a 65 weight that's in the upper tiers. But he's still great. Erdrick, like I say, he's still strong. Obviously, got the status immunity. He's got some damage reduction. He's got the AoE bang spell, which is, like I say, still particularly good currently. But he has no typeless, and he doesn't, his damage reduction can't stack with V. And it's like, if you're building a team and you have Solo and you have Erdrick, it's like, is there ever a reason to use Erdrick over Solo? Not really. Is there ever a reason to use Erdrick over Antu? Not really. Is there ever a reason to use Erdrick over V? Not really. It's difficult to justify using this guy over any of the other anniversary units. But he is still pretty good. Don't get me wrong. Same story for Die 2. Same as Erdrick, basically. Tanky unit. He does have a sleep weakness flaw, but he does have typeless. He does hit incredibly hard. He does have a short hit whoosh attack. He's got some good traits. He's got that 65 weight hero power, but it just isn't. It's not better than V, Solo, or Antu. So it's difficult to justify running him. Again, obviously, if you have the choice, you may not have the choice. And if you are running Die 2, obviously you can still do well with him. But this is assuming you do have the choice to run whoever you want, and Die 2 isn't the top pick for 65 weights if you have the choices. Summer Seraphine, she's still good. She has the niche of applying breath resistance to her allies, which as V has risen to prominence, that's going to be possibly become more and more useful over time. She has her reactive heals, which can help survive versus Blitz. She can still be used in Blitz teams because she's one of the fastest units in the game still, even just with 1 stack of agility about to start. So she maintains relevance. She's not as common since Ladger released. Like, if someone was running a Seraphie on their team before, on their blitz team, almost certainly is going to be replaced by Ladger at this point because he's just better. But she does still, she has some unique traits about her, and she is still pretty good. It's just that things have just gotten more powerful and she hasn't kept up as well. But you probably still see her from time to time. You got Hawkheart again. He was a popular blitz unit at one time, and then he slowly got less and less popular as things get faster and faster. He has no agility at battle start, and PMS is super popular. Summer Psaro is about to become super popular, and so his ability to, like, he does have auto revive, but there's a lot more things that are being introduced to blitz teams that can just one shot him, and then anything that goes after can probably kill Hawkheart for 50% health anyway. But he does have the auto revive, he does have snooze, he does have the ability to cure his teammate status ailments, so he does still have a place. He has a very strong and unique kit, but like I say, he's just been forced down a bit because other things are just so powerful these days. Next up we have B ranks. I'm probably not going to go through every single one of these because I can't be bothered, but I'll probably pick on a few just to talk about them a little bit. Terry, he's actually pretty good in the current meta because he has 40% evasion for battle start. He goes for one attack, he's got 60% evasion. He also has Immortal. In such a physical meta, that's only if you only got a 40% chance to hit him, and he has Immortal, then this guy can actually stick around for a really long time. And Zap, Zap isn't as good as it used to be, but it is still pretty useful, and it does actually hit hard coming off him. So he's actually a pretty solid unit to have if you want to cheese auto blitz. Mendini with Physical Reflect, really strong versus Physical Blitz. Kisses multi-hits, great for hitting through Immortal. Santa Elena, she can be decent in Blitz, or if the match goes stally, she has move up over time. She has a giant coup, she's great for that. Recently had the Greynar Blossom. It's difficult for him to compete with some of the 50 weights that are above him, but he got even tankier. He got the ability to activate cover when he's knocked below a certain percentage and save allies. Triple hit Zap could be very useful for taking out Summer Psaro. We got CGM. Again, other 65 weights are better, and if you don't land Confusion, he's not that valuable. If you do land Confusion though, one of the most valuable units in the game. Zoma, his Frigid Wave, wiping out the Battlestar buffs in a giant AoE, that can be amazing. Unfortunately, after that, he's not really very useful, positioning wise and survivability wise and damage wise. Compared to the other 65 weights, it's just not that useful. Wildcard has the Physical Reflect. Jameer still has the Accelerator to potentially agility flip things. The things are so fast now that even with an Accelerator boost, you may not even be flipping them. Queen Slime, for weaker boxes particularly, she's still a great cheese option. If you can just land a reactive charm body or go for her press and charm something, that can swing a match in your favor. Vera, she can still evasion cheese, and she has the potential to actually turn flip some of these super fast units if she can hit 2 units and get the buffs. Diamond Slime, he can still, if he can survive Blitz, he can set up. It's kind of difficult for him to survive nowadays, and obviously he has the same problem as Draconium, in that V does not care about his damage reduction, and his health pool is really low when you consider that. And then C ranks, I'm not going to talk about much particularly in here. You've got Duel and FAC, they can evasion cheese, auto blitz. Nelgel can be tried, or Nelgel, I'm not sure how you say his name actually. He can be used to, if all your teammates die, then you have a supercharged Nelgel at least. Barbaros got Blossom recently. He's really tanky now. If the enemy has a Zamweak unit, then Barbaros might get to have fun. If they don't, he will not be having fun. Bianca has the reactive heal still. Young Terry can buff your units and buff move. Dr. Snapped, he's still his damage, his death tiles that he sets up, those are still some of the best tiles in the game. Lowering move and agility on death, that is an amazing ability, but I haven't seen him in 3 months to be honest, but I think he does still have potential. And I guess I should do auto cover now because I'll actually go in depth on these guys. Mechano Worm, I think he's, as I said, I think I did this in order, I think he's the best. He wasn't pulled on very much, I don't think, and it's understandable why. If you already had a Rose Garden or a Forest Dragon, it's difficult to commit to pulling on Mechano Worm to the point where he would actually be able to compete with them in terms of their HP and defense and stuff. But he is very strong. If you do have him max awakened, he is by far the best cover tank, I think. He has Spell Reflect, obviously that's wiping out some potential damage he could take. He has Paralyzed React Body, so anything physical that touches it or martial that touches him, they could potentially get paralyzed, which obviously matters for things like PMS, not Ladger because he's immune, but anything physical or martial that touches him has that potential. He's super tanky. He has a breath that can paralyze. He has that missile that can lower move, though I've never actually seen a single Mechanoworm ever do that. But most importantly is he has the ability to go for selflessness, so he can reactivate his cover. So that basically means you can use him as auto cover to protect against Blitz. But if you load into the game and see it isn't Blitz, well, unlike Rose Garden, Forest Dragon, Ashlyn, his cover's not going to run out after turn 3. His cover's going to last the whole for as long as you press Selfless for, which means you can go the distance and you can have a more drawn out game, and you're at no disadvantage for running auto cover. Whereas if you run these auto covers, and then let's say you run into somebody that's running Mechanoworm or running Diamond Slime, very rare these days, but if you were, you're going to lose your cover tank after 3 turns. They're not going to lose their cover tank after 3 turns. So he's got the ability to play both roles and adapt to either style, which is really important. Next up we have Rose Garden. Obviously he's an A rank, so you can fit a lot more powerful units around him, and importantly he has bang resistance, which means he can protect your team from the PMS pool. It's slightly less useful these days with how powerful Blitz is, because Rex can kill him in 1 hit, Ladger can kill him in 1 hit if he's covering 2 units. So it's slightly harder to protect your team with Rose Garden these days, but he's still crucial. If you want to keep a unit alive, Rose Garden can do that, and he's only 35 weight. It's very useful. Forest Dragon I put slightly behind him just because he's heavier. He doesn't allow you to run as powerful units, and as you'll notice, what's it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the 8 units I've put in the highest tier are 65 weight. So really you want to be able to run as many 65 weights as possible, I would say. And if you're running Forest Dragon, that limits your ability to do that slightly. But he is, and also the other thing is, he gives damage reduction, but V also gives damage reduction passively. So his niche of being able to do that is slightly diminished. But he is still useful. He's a lot tankier than Rose Garden is, and he has the ability to actually deal damage back, and he has multi-hits. So he is useful in that regard, but he doesn't have bang resistance, which is one thing that makes him worse versus PMS. But he won't die to the Rex press, and he won't die to Ladger's pool either. So he does have that extra bulk. And then finally there's Winter Ashlyn. She has unique resistances, and she doesn't actually have a status weakness like a real one. She's kind of like some Psaro in that regard. But she's 60 weight, again that's limiting the power of the units you can put around her. And generally speaking, yeah, that's just what makes it work. And also, I've seen like 2 Winter Ashlyns in my life. So I guess other people don't really believe in her either. So yeah, that's it. I'm not going to do a Ladger rant. I basically did a kind of a mini Ladger rant. He's just... evasion's just stupid, man. I just hate evasion. Evasion and the fact that being slower than the unit means you can miss. It's just added so much unreliability into the game. And I don't like it because all the evasion units also have other dumb perks that mean you can't use other things to kill them easily. So yeah, I don't like the way the meta's going. I don't like the fact that it's got so blitz heavy. I don't like the fact that if you're not spending a lot, it's extremely difficult to keep up. Also, one final thing, I don't know if anybody made it this far into the video. Imagine you're going to say, I don't like the fact that V can summon a cover tank. I'm someone that's abused that a lot. I've done it a hell of a lot. But I actually think that the ability to summon a cover tank is such a ridiculously powerful concept. It is too powerful. I think, and it diminishes the other summons he can do. Slimehopper is pretty cool, Chimera is pretty cool, but 95% of the time, the correct play is to summon a cover tank and it's not like he's a weak cover tank. Brickman, he has 1500 HP, he gets to go for cover straight after he's summoned, so he has 20% damage reduction, he starts with +1 defense. Like, he's not a frail unit. In fact, other Vs can't even kill him with Zenithian Zephyr. They can't sleep him, of course. But I think it's ridiculous that you can being able to summon a cover tank is way too good. And I don't think they should have given him something else that wasn't that, or they should have put a limit on the amount of turns that the summon units would be for. If you could summon Brickman, but after 3 turns he disappeared, then you wouldn't be able to it would lead to a lot less stall fests in V versus V matches where both teams are just hiding behind a summoned Brickman all game, because no one wants to commit. And so I think it's stupid to be able to summon a cover tank that is as bulky as Brickman is and that lasts for the whole game. And I would have rather they replaced it with something else that either matched the power levels of Slimehopper or was also powerful and raised the power of Slimehopper and Kinmyra a bit. I think that would have been better and more interesting, because V already does so much. He already does it really, really well. Being able to summon a cover tank is not something I think that he needed. But if it's one of the best things we can have to, you know, counter this Blitz meta, then it's something that I'll accept. But, you know, I would rather that he didn't have that, and also the Blitz wasn't so ridiculously obnoxious. But we will see what the future of the meta holds. I'm hoping that Valeria stays relevant. Like I say, as long as PMS and Ladra are relevant, Valeria's relevant. So I am happy in some ways. But, you know, a lot of people I talk to these days, the meta is becoming less and less fun as units become more and more obnoxious to deal with. So we will see. I don't know when the next time I'll do a rant is, probably when they release the next broken unit that annoys me. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. Peace out.